Scheduled creativity on today's episode of Develop and Process. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you're going to enjoy the future content. I have a lot of great stuff in the works. It's all about creativity, photography, being artistic, living the creative life, and improving as a photographer, leveling up as a creative photographer. So I'm going to have a lot of videos coming out. I really want to encourage you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. I'm Justin Lowery, a fine art landscape photographer working primarily in large format film. Today we're going to talk about scheduling creativity. And that's a subject that seems like an oxymoron for some people, I'm sure. But in reality, is the daily reality for a lot of creatives, and arguably the most creative artists and creative people are doing that through scheduled creativity. So it's kind of like a semi-obvious power tip to be more creative. I think a lot of times creativity is romanticized as being this thing that strikes when the muse hits you, or, you know, you have inspiration fall out of the sky and hit you in the head, and then you have this amazing burst of creativity and unicorns and rainbows are just shooting out of the sky and things are wonderful and the air smells amazing, and, you know, but that's not really the reality for artists or creative people working all over the world today and throughout history. The reality is that when you're working to be creative, a lot of the time you are living, well, you're living in the real world, let's be honest. And sadly, I think for the last, most of human history, creative people have not been rewarded for our, value that we add to the world. We make the world more beautiful. We make the world more interesting. We sort of help elevate humanity, or at least that's what we try to do through our acts of creative expression. We try to, bring inspiration to other people. We try to show the beauty in the world, or show, the struggle in the world to people through our art. We try to say something. We try to bring our message to the world through our art and hopefully make other people's lives better. I mean, ultimately, that's what art does. It makes other people's lives better, and in the process, it makes the artist's life better. The best artists, I believe, live the artistic life. In other words, your entire life is artistic. You think artistically. You think, how can I make this better? How can I bring beauty into this? How can I bring creativity into this with every micro facet of your life, whether it's picking out your wardrobe in the morning, what shoes to wear, whether it's, how to decorate your room, or how to pick the paint for your office, or whatever. Probably a little ironic, I have horrible paint in this office. It's because it is a rental and I can't really paint it. That's another story. But anyway, I just want to talk about the reality of creating art. The creatives that are the least productive, the least prolific, are the ones that are disorganized. And I think there's a tendency for creative people to be disorganized because it sort of comes with the territory where you're very right-brained, you're very abstract-minded, and you tend to think in these sort of sweeping abstract terms that aren't necessarily organized. Basically, the most creative people are the most organized. So let me just give you some real practical, down-to-earth, brass tacks. What does my life look like? On the internet, or to a lot of other people, I'm a fine art landscape photographer. But what's the reality? Well, the reality is people are not, at least not right away, going to just pay you to go out and take pictures of pretty mountains. Like, that's not reality. Now, eventually, yes, you can get to that point, and eventually you can be financially self-sustaining on taking pictures of pretty mountains. But it takes years and years and years of hard work and tens of thousands of dollars of investment and thousands of hours of time to get to that point. no matter what point of that journey you're on, whether it's the beginning of the journey or even when you're on the quote unquote end where you've achieved creative success or professional success as an artist, you have to deal with the reality of paying the bills and sustaining your lifestyle. And for me, like right now, what that means is that, during the day, I'm a graphic designer. Like that's my profession. I do graphic design for a living that pays the bills. And then my art is something I do on the side as, in today's parlance, my side hustle. That's what I do on the weekends. That's what I do in the evenings. That's what I do late into the early hours of the morning. Last night I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning editing a motion graphics intro for this channel. That's the typical thing. That's how I spend my time. A lot of times I'll be up until 2 or 3 in the morning working on creative projects because that's literally the only time I have that's just uninterrupted time to churn out creative work. A lot of times if you look on my Instagram or you look on my YouTube, you're going to see like all of these really fascinating trips, and I'll go to Death Valley or go to Zion or I'll go to Yosemite or the Sierra or Nevada, Arizona, whatever, and it's going to look really awesome. Like, wow, this guy gets to travel all the time and it's so glamorized and romantic and amazing and all of this. But like the reality is 99% of the time I'm sitting behind a computer screen grinding out graphic design projects one after another all day long, every single day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for years. Like that's the reality, is most of the time I'm doing paid creativity on a professional basis to pay the bills. And then I do creative stuff after work. So I'm creative all day for work to pay the bills. And then after work, I have to schedule creativity and save energy, to actually do my side hustle, my side creativity. So sometimes that can be really challenging because at the end of the day, you're just completely wiped and you're exhausted. And, you might have had a stressful day, or maybe you've just had to do an insane amount of creative work. And creative work is intellectually taxing, emotionally exhausting. And sometimes it can be really hard to be creative on a professional level and then still be creative on a personal level after that. And balancing those two outlets can be really hard. So to schedule creativity in practical terms, like what does that look like? I've heard it said this way. Sometimes it's best to schedule the things you enjoy into your day, into your week, into your year, so that when you're working on the stuff you have to do, that those things you look forward to doing are there. So for example, like when you're setting up your day, you might say, well, I have to work from 9 to 5, but from 5 till 7, or from 10 till 12, or from 12 till 2 a.m., I'm going to work on X creative project that I'm really looking forward to. And you literally can put that into your schedule. And that may not sound very romantic or very inspiring, but the reality is that if you have that time and you sit down and you grind out that creativity, just the act of starting the work, of taking the initiative, and doing the creative work, you're going to actually find inspiration. So like, inspiration is not necessarily this thing that just like floats out of the sky and hits you in the head. A lot of the time it just comes down to planning. It comes down to, writing out, what do I want to create? When am I going to create it? What tools am I going to need? How much is it going to cost? And then writing all that out and planning it. And that may not sound very great. That's may not what you want to hear, but the reality is like a lot of times that's just how it works in the real world. On a bigger scale, what that looks like for me is, I don't get to just go out on some cool trip whenever I want. Those trips are stinking expensive. They're time consuming. I have to bring my work with me, and work remotely. So I might be in a campsite, until 2 o'clock in the morning on my laptop, working on a Verizon LTE connection in the back of my truck, finishing a graphic design project to hit a deadline for, a client or something, or for my work. And like, that's the reality. But because I'm doing that, I'm able to then be up at 5 in the morning working on creating a sunset image on large format film, the next morning. And then, I'm out until say 9 a.m. in the morning shooting, then the light's not good anymore. And then I might come back to my truck and do graphic design projects on my laptop in the back of my truck in a national park until, 6 o'clock in the evening right before sunset. And then close up my laptop, drive to the sunset location, set up, do my sunset shot, go back to camp, and then do some more graphic design work. So like that's the reality, is sometimes you just have to schedule your creativity and make it happen, because life isn't gonna just hand it to you on a silver platter. You have to earn it. Like sometimes you have to really work and plan and schedule and organize in order to be creative and to be creatively productive and prolific. I think that's just something to keep in mind and something that's really useful. And I honestly think it's the best way to be creative. Because when you have to be creative, as we all do, but what I mean is when you put on your calendar, I'm going to be creative on, May 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. You look forward to that, you anticipate, you think about it in advance. And then when the time finally comes, you are creative, like you do the work. And like, that's the reality. That's how it works. Scheduling your creativity is the best way to guarantee your creativity will actually happen. For example, here's another example. Today, right now, as I'm making this video, is scheduled creativity. I've been working on graphic design projects all day long, and I had a slot in my schedule where I said at this time, this is when the light is good coming in this window, and my wife's at her job, so she's going to be home at a certain time. So I have from now until the time she gets home to record this video, and after that point, I have to shut this off, put the camera away, and do family time. So like I literally have maybe 30 minutes right now to record this video. I'm not going to have time to edit it. I'm just going to sit here, record the video real fast, and then get back to work. And then my wife gets home, I'm going to take off, and then I'm going to spend scheduled time with family. So every week I have this schedule where right now on Thursday or Friday for say 20 to 30 minutes, I record the develop and process show for my podcast and for my YouTube channel. And then at 5, I'll go and do family night with the family and spend time with them and hang out with my niece and nephew and stuff and my in-laws. And that's another thing. So, you value your work, you value your creative side hustle, you value your family, and you've got to balance those 3 priorities or, various other priorities that you have. And that's just how it works. Making a conscious decision to organize and schedule your creativity can sometimes be the best thing for it. So that's the takeaway today. And I just want to encourage you to make a schedule. So look at your calendar right now. And if there are events where you want to be creative, like say you want to take a trip, maybe daydream about that event, pencil it into your calendar, and then say, where do I want to go? What is it going to cost? What tools am I going to need? So in my case, that's landscape photography. So I'm going to say, I'm going to need this camera, this lens, this film. I'm going to need this many film holders. I'm going to need this much gas. I'm going to need this many days or hours, free to work on this project. And I put that on my calendar. So I'll have several different trips that I have planned on my calendar when I'm going to go and actually do this. And I'll even, sometimes with work, you'll have to work extra hard when you're not on a trip to make the trip possible. So sometimes like I'll try and, buffer the deadlines leading up to a trip and work extra hard and hustle and work into the night and work over the weekends and stuff so that a trip can be made possible. Like that's the reality. And another thing I just want to say is that this is not limited to side hustle. Creative scheduling is something that just never goes away. So, for example, if you're a professional landscape photographer or a professional painter or a professional artist, you still have to schedule, and arguably a whole lot more so. Because as a side hustle, you have this sort of luxury of the bills will be paid by my day job. But if you do your art for a living, you have no choice but to schedule your creativity. Otherwise, you just don't pay the bills, and then you don't get to be creative for a living anymore. So, right now that works on both ends. I schedule my day job work and I schedule my side hustle creativity work, and I have to fit that all into the schedule to make it happen. I just want to encourage you to be organized and to be scheduled in your creativity. And I think that'll actually really help you, because I have heard from a lot of my artist friends and photographer friends who get really bummed out and they get really down because they say, I'm just not feeling inspired. I just feel really lethargic. I just feel unmotivated right now. I just feel like I can't, be creative right now. I'm like, guys, it's not the tooth fairy. It's not going to just come and hit you in the head. You got to decide to be creative, put it on your schedule, and go do it. So get out there and do the creative work. I'm Justin Lowery. This has been Develop in Process. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It really matters. YouTube is actually, going to not allow me to do things that I want to do until I get more subscribers. That's how YouTube's policies work. So please do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the video with your friends. These things matter. They're meaningful. They help me a great deal in making this channel more successful. So I just want to thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And if you enjoyed this video, a couple other videos that I think might be helpful to you are the My Story episode 1 and Creative Originality and Self-Doubt episodes of Develop in Process. If you haven't seen those, make sure you watch those as well, as I think they'll really help you. So until next time, stay curious.